If I was you, I'd be asking for a refund. Everything they do for DOC, they need to defund. Lazy guards, double cells, everything in here is hell. You ever been to the county jail praying that you get some mail? Then you hit receive and all the stories, can't believe them. I thank God that I'm alive, I thank God that I'm still breathing. After COVID, wearing masks, everyone's sad. How did a virus know a budget? It really makes me laugh. We had good times, bad times, but still it made us strong. It was hard to be accountable, I had to right my wrongs. But now I'm long and forgotten, they forgot about me.
Welcome to another compelling episode of the Defund DOC podcast. Your number one premium community to hear true prison stories, conniving prison politics, and radical prison reform solutions that will end recidivist crime in America once and for all. Please welcome our hosts, Linda Thompson and Daniel J. Sims, as they delve into another hard-hitting and thought-provoking episode.
Welcome to another episode of the Defund DOC podcast. I'm Linda, and with me is my co-host, Daniel Sims.
Hey everyone, this is Daniel, Defund DOC. Everybody knows that we like to highlight exceptional people in prison. We like to do that because the creative people in prison, the remarkable people in prison, it breaks stereotypes. People just want to imagine that in prison is just all these violent people that are just foaming at the mouth to commit some kind of new criminal act on you when it's not true. That's what the politicians and the mass media want you to think. In reality, there's just a lot of broken men in here and bunch of people that want to have another chance at life. And so today we have an exciting episode. We're going to introduce a renowned hip-hop artist, producer from San Diego, California, to now the president of the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Group at Airway Heights Correctional Center. Michael Matol appears in this latest podcast episode called Put Down the Pen by Big Mike, an episode about life inside prison, looking forward to freedom. He will also shed light on his views on victim advocacy, women survivors of abuse, and their link to a high percentage of incarceration. Big Mike will also speak about the importance of cultural awareness and how it can save you from being a victim of injustice. In this episode, see the double meaning of the phrase, put down the pen, and see how putting words into action can impact those around you, and recognizing only you can stop you from accomplishing your goals. Hello, Big Mike. How you doing, man?
Man, look, I'm blessed, man. I just appreciate, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you and Linda for allowing me to be on this podcast today. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. We like to highlight exceptional people, creative people. We want to break these stereotypes, get the society back on the right track. We need to turn these places into places of restoration.
Absolutely. I think you bring up a great point, man, because unfortunately, stereotypes in all aspects, not even just prison, but all aspects of stereotypes is victimization in itself, and the fact that we get stereotyped as these criminals. You know, once upon a time, maybe, but I've seen so many talented and intelligent people during my incarceration where I feel wholeheartedly that we're just victim to injustice now, you know what I mean, doing so much time, and, you know what I mean, we want to become better people, so, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, Big Mike. That's one of the founding principles of this podcast is that this is a system of corruption and injustice. They're operating on a high level of hate. When you walk around here and oppress your people, these are fellow citizens on a daily basis, and then you torture them with solitary confinement, you withhold education from them, you withhold treatment from them, then you steal their wages for years and years, and that's a system of hate. That's a throwback from before the Civil War, and it's called the institution of slavery. And so, yeah, we're here exposing it, and we appreciate you coming on the show and showing your insight into the corrupt injustices that our people, the American people, face in this system.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it, and I think you highlighted a lot of great points, and I look forward to being able to answer any questions that come up and also shed light on the importance of everything that you're speaking about and everything that we have in line for today. So,
absolutely.
Can you please share with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. So my name is Michael Matol. I'm 35. I'm born and raised in beautiful, sunny Southern California. I moved up here. Unfortunately, I caught a 123-month bid. I'm very fortunate that I have 37 months left. During my incarceration, I've been very aware of my surroundings and knowing that, you know, I only have one chance to really make it up to my family, my kids, my mom, my dad, my whole family, that I am a changed man. And though I'm very remorseful and regretful of my actions, I understand now that my actions also affected my family. And so now, wholeheartedly, I look to not only change myself, but hopefully change the way that we're looked at as people that are institutionalized, but also helping change the outcome for people. Hopefully people that never had a chance to go home, hopefully can have a chance to go home and really better themselves as men, as brothers, as uncles, as whoever they are to their family, you know what I mean, and become successful law-abiding citizens and taxpayers, but also realize that, look, we're not who we used to be. We're different now, you know what I'm saying? So that's just who I am now, and, you know, being a part of the street life back in the day, I didn't really care about other people. I didn't care about, all I cared about was money and what's good for me. But now, you know, my life's really changed, especially with my kids getting older every day, and I'm still in here, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So let's go back a little bit. What elementary did you go to? Where was it at?
The elementary school I went to was called Paloma Elementary School. That was in San Diego, California. Middle school was also, all the schools I went to were all in San Diego, California. I'm Filipino. I grew up to Filipino parents. They were divorced. They were divorced since I was 7. So, you know, my mom being a single mom and having to really struggle, you know what I'm saying, and having to see that and seeing my dad struggle too, you know, I had to really try to get at an early age, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So in essence, when you were devoid of the guidance of a father, perhaps due to the divorce, how was the family home? Did you have lots of resources? Were you kind of like in the lower class, working class? What was home like?
You know, my family thought about myself and my younger sister the best they could. So, you know, I went from my mom's to my dad every 2 weeks. I went to live with my mom for 2 weeks, my dad for 2 weeks. And it was like that throughout my whole life, pretty much throughout, you know what I mean, high school. But it was really easy. My mom, unfortunately suffered bipolar depression. So, you know, she was in and out of mental institutions as I got older. You know what I mean? I've seen her you know, overdose on medication and things like that. So really seeing my mom suffer like that, it hurt me. And so I felt even more obligated to try to take care of my sister at that time. And I was young. So, you know, my mom was my best friend. And to see her struggle like that, it definitely took a toll. But she's a great mother. And, you know what I mean? And I just see now as a parent, you know what I mean, how hard it is to just be a parent nowadays, regardless if it's inside these walls or outside these walls. So for her, being a woman and being a single mom, I can't imagine the struggle she had to go through.
Absolutely.
So when you were young, what kind of struggles did you endure?
Definitely financial struggles for sure. I didn't really have any name brand stuff too much as far as, you know what I mean, if there was some new shoes that had came out, I had to get the knockoffs, shop at the $5 store, you know what I mean, and then also a lot of the struggles that I had, you know what I mean, being part of the gang life. I lost a handful of friends before I even hit the 10th grade, you know what I mean, and when you feel like you have to I guess get back, you know, against the other people, against your rivals or whatever the case may be, it's just a revolving door, and it's just a setup for failure. And so at a young age, just wanting to have, you know, a participation in all that gang activity and things like that, not really understanding the repercussions and not caring about the repercussions at the time is detrimental to someone's mental for sure, you know?
So looking back, what do you think you were searching for in your life? Were you searching for like acceptance, love, security?
That's a good question. I actually love that question. I definitely would say acceptance for sure. I think acceptance from the wrong people, but definitely acceptance. I think, you know, having to go back and forth from my mom's to my dad's every 2 weeks, it's easy for someone that's so young possibly not feel accepted, you know what I'm saying, and feel like it's probably my fault that I got divorced regardless of what the case may be. So definitely acceptance, number one for sure.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head, man. So in regards to what you were saying, with growing up in poverty and not having your father there, and also dealing with the gang life, how it can suck you in really quickly, just because of the way that our culture is. They've actually had books regarding this topic, from the war on poverty to the war on crime, the making of mass incarceration. This is written by Elizabeth Hinton and essentially explains the poverty or the trauma to prison pipeline, and it's really corrupt because the government knows this, politicians know this, the media knows this. All you really needed was a helping hand by the government. You know what I mean? Like, you're not a bad person. You know what I mean? Like, you're a good person, but you just needed that. Give me some education. You know what I mean? Give Mike a career. Can you imagine if they would have gave you a degree in music, Scientology, or you know what I mean? Being able to come up with, and they know that. And yet they don't want to give us the education that we need and just let us go. They want to keep us in here, So, we appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. You know what's crazy about what you just mentioned? I believe that, and I agree with you. I think one thing that I guess needs to be brought up is definitely mental health, and it doesn't matter how intelligent someone can be. I believe I was intelligent growing up. It's just I didn't apply myself. I didn't have the resources to apply myself. I didn't apply myself because there was so much going on in the home. But who would have known that I would have had mental health struggles? You know what I'm saying? Seeing everything that I've seen at such a young age, and having to feel like I have to be the man of the house when I'm at my mom's and things like that. It could take a toll on me when I'm 11, 12 years old. You know what I mean? And so mental health is a huge problem even today. And I feel that needs to be addressed a lot more. There's more than just pills, or there's more than just medication for someone to get help for mental health. You know what I'm saying? So
That's big, Mike. Yeah, I think it's really important for people like you, that the youngsters, the next generation, and then, even professionals, college professors, government people, to hear the real issue is not criminality. People are not inherently evil. It's just the trauma, you know what I mean, and the poverty and the culture. This is what gets us into this cycle. And there's actually a really good article named Trauma Exposure and Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Among Incarcerated Men. It's written by Nancy Wolf and Jessica Hunging, and essentially explains about the trauma that a lot of imprisoned men have suffered in their lives. And actually, it's really high, like 60% suffered some type of childhood abuse. And a lot of foster kids suffer from trauma, and then all the stuff that you dealt with at a young age. When you see your parents parting ways at 7, that inflicts a deep pain in you, you know what I mean? And that probably affected you all through growing up,
Yeah, it did. I see the effects it has on my sister as well. And it's unfortunate because it's like a revolving door. I'm a numbers guy. You know me, Daniel. I'm a numbers guy. Statistics, you know what I'm saying? It says everything. And so for my parents to divorce, there was a higher chance of me already being incarcerated based off their divorce and not having a consistent household, right? So then me also being incarcerated, my kids now have an 82% chance of going to prison or going to jail because they now have at least one parent that's incarcerated. And that's based off of the Bureau of Justice and Statistics. And so that, to me, that's really concerning. So it started, where did it start? I'm not sure. Where did this whole thing about the injustice in my life, where did it start? Did it start maybe generations back? I can't tell you that. But all I know is I want it to end now. You know what I'm saying? And I can't afford for my kids or any one of their friends or anyone that I interact with for their kids to go to prison. I would hate to see that. And so I think now is already too late. So I feel that we have to get on this ASAP because, the future of our nation really is based off of our children.
That was an exceptional topic, Mike. There's a lot of people that have been exposing the child-to-prison pipeline, essentially, is what it is. It's basically intergenerational imprisonment. Like you said, 80-something% of our children of the incarcerated are ending up in prison. These are innocent children, and we know that they're going to end up in prison because of the evilness that is being inflicted upon their parents. It's just an absurd cycle, and hopefully society can wake up and the citizens can unite and organize behind some reform effort to make it about justice again, equity, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what, to add to that too, I think people like ourselves, if we can really shed the lights of people inside the walls, you know what I mean, and really bring awareness to that, you know what I mean, because how many of us have children? There's at least 90% of the population have children, you know what I mean, and so if that's the case, why can't we just change that statistic? You know what I mean, we can't wait on the government or anyone else. We have to do it upon ourselves. If we have to play that role and take that role, I'm down for it. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it really is going to take people like ourselves to be able to change that, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's why we always advocate for people to become civically engaged and to organize, to unite behind this movement.
Absolutely.
Were there any themes that appeared throughout your life? Did any mentors appear? Did your family stand by you or anything like that?
Wow, that's actually a great question. I'm actually glad you asked that question. So my family's always been 100% behind me with anything that I've ever done, and I'm grateful for that 100% because I wouldn't be the man who I am now without my family. That being said, there was a mentor by the name of JC. His name was John Cedrus, and he actually had a nonprofit organization. It was called Panorama Teen Center. And it was for high schoolers to be able to go that didn't have a place to go, to do homework, extracurricular activities, things like that. When I met JC and I heard about this, I heard there was a studio, a recording studio in that teen center. And long story short, we were allowed to use it for free. The only thing was it was no cussing, no gang affiliation. It happened to be in a neighborhood where it wasn't welcome because it was, it was in my enemy's territory, but I didn't care because I wanted to go record music. So long story short, he had the opportunity to teach me how to produce, teach me how to write songs, and actually I was able to have a tuition fully paid to LA Recording School in Hollywood. And so they paid the whole. It was the first and second semester they paid for, and then unfortunately they lost funding, so they weren't able to complete the whole program. But just the fact that I was able to go to Hollywood and really learn from some people, instructors and things like that was a blessing, and I've used that ever since. I've been able to use the skills that I've learned from John Cedrus ever since.
Wow, that's exceptional, Mike. See how just a little tiny bit of education can lift you up as a person? One mentor and one season of school, and now even to this day still able to use that knowledge. You know what I mean? And the government knows this, man, and they want to keep the education away from us. They did the same thing to the slaves before the Civil War. They kept them uneducated so that they couldn't rise up and fight back against the oppression. And so that's what we're dealing with today, man. So I appreciate you sharing that information with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I honestly look forward to hopefully being a mentor. I'm still a student, man. First and foremost, I'm learning every day of my life, but hopefully I can be a mentor to a lot of youth and hopefully keep them out of places like this, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The mentors actually help young kids out a lot because there's someone there that's showing them that they're worth it and they're worth the time and they deserve it. So I feel like that alone helps these kids a lot, that there's someone that cares.
I had a foster father named Mike Stanton, and he was my mentor, man, and he really did set the stage for me to have the love in my life that for up until that point, man, I was lacking. So yeah, we all need a mentor.
It's crazy because I'm in myself and more API cultural group members here are trying to start up the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Awareness Group here at this facility. And it's been, a struggle. DOC has given, put some obstacles in place for that to happen. But long story short, what we do is we have youth summits. So we allow the youth, teenagers and things like that to be able to come into prison, and we can be mentors to them and show them, like, look, this is not the life you want to live, this is not the life you need to live, and how we can be big brothers, or we can be, advocates to these kids, who still have a chance of being successful. So shout out to all the API, CAG, anyone that's helping out the API here, Columbia Legal Services, Addie Papa's, Fight, Utopia, thank you so much for all you guys' help. We're going to get it popping over here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, all those organizations. More people need to get in this struggle. I believe this is a key civil rights struggle of our generation today, is incarceration, the mass enslavement of our people. This is our civil rights struggle today,
Yeah, it is, for sure.
We have a great need for volunteers. Currently, we are seeking brand ambassadors in every city and state. No experience is necessary. All you would need to do is run social media pages, get a city or state defunddoc.net website, and then simply like and share our social media posts and copy and paste content from our website onto yours. We need your help to amplify the overdue message of change and reform.
Hey, everybody. It takes funds to keep this social justice mission going. We have bootstrapped it with our own money, but we need your help moving forward. So we are exploring ways to raise funds. One way is if you want to share your product or service with our audience, you can easily become a sponsor. Just use our website contact form. Another is purchasing my books, Hopeless in Seattle, The Art of Living, and Defund DOC. We are selling a supporter digital bundle of all three for the price of one. If you rather have a physical copy, you can get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other book platforms. Next, we have defunddoc.net merchandise for sale on our websites, Etsy, and TikTok. We are working hard at giving you value for your help. We want this mission to succeed, and achieve reform so that you and your descendants do not experience this horrible criminal justice system.
We are excited to include new features for our community. The first is those that are already subscribed can have their names shared with the community on a podcast episode. If you're open to this, please let us know. All new subscribers may have their names shared with the community as well. Of course, we know privacy is important to some, so this is a voluntary option. Our goal is to create a vibrant and strong community of amazing like-minded people. The next project we're working on is highlighting your past injustices or abuses with the criminal justice system. We may use some of them in social media videos and posts. Another thing we would like for you to do, if you or a loved one is currently enduring bad or unfair treatment in the criminal justice system, from arrests all the way to imprisonment, we would like to hear it. We may expose the maltreatment and try to help you by bringing public attention to it. Just contact us on our website or leave us a text or voice message at 302-827-7746.
Hey, friends. Don't forget, all new subscribers get a free digital copy of one of my books, Defund DLC or The Art of Living. If you invite some of your social media community and they subscribe, we will give you the other book too. Please refer your family and friends today.
Can you please share a time in your life when you were doing great, and what was the twist or surprise that upended it?
That's a hard question to answer because there's always been times I feel in my life that I was doing great at that time, and then there's always been something that set it back. So if I could say this, I think I was doing great. It was the birth of my children. It was a great point in my life. Unfortunately, dealing with the traumas that I've had from the past and my mental health struggles, I always just look back at hurting people, you know what I mean? And so that's always been my setback, was at the end of the day just going back to things that were traumatic to me and going back to that, because I have beautiful children, I have a beautiful family, and those will always be the greatest moments, was the times I've spent with them and the times I still do spend with them. But unfortunately, I wasn't strong enough to overcome the mental health battles that I had from the past, you know what I mean? And I still struggle till this day, but I feel that I'm doing a lot better and I'm able to overcome anything that's in my way, for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, just speaking to you from this small amount of time, I'm positive that the audience knows you're a good person. You've had some struggles in your life, growing up in poverty, growing up with a single mom in a neighborhood infested with gangs, you know what I mean? Growing up with very few licit job options in your neighborhood. The closest thing that you had to making money was drug dealing, most likely, or something to that effect. So, it's understandable how you got here. Now it's time for you to exhibit and demonstrate that people are not defined by what they've done in the past. It's what they do in the future. And so we appreciate you sharing what you've shared, very much so,
I appreciate the time you guys are giving me. And you know what? If I can say this, because I'm really big on sharing what I'm about to share when it comes to victim advocacy real quick. So first and foremost, I don't want to take away from anyone that is a victim. First and foremost, I think that's, all I want to speak about real quick is bringing awareness to victims on both sides of the spectrum. So like I brought up earlier, with us being incarcerated, Daniel, unfortunately, the victims would also be our loved ones, right? Not being able to be there for our wives or our kids or our moms or our families, they're also victims to this mass incarceration. And I think that there needs to be more victim advocacy on both sides of the spectrum. Anyone that's a victim of some type of abuse being physical, mental, spiritual, verbal, that's all abuse that needs to be addressed appropriately. Just because someone goes to therapy and then they're done with therapy doesn't mean that they're restored. And I think that there needs to be a lot more focus on victim advocacy across the board, across the nation, not even just Washington State, across the nation, because it's just going to get worse. I feel it's just going to get worse for a lot of people, It's not fair. It's not fair that 90% of women that are incarcerated in Washington State are victims of abuse. It's not fair. If they shouldn't have to go through abuse, and then all of a sudden they have, because of their trauma, they do something, right, and then they're incarcerated. It's not fair to these women who give birth, who have to hold down a family, who do all that, you know what I'm saying? And so we have to figure something out to be able to change those numbers.
Absolutely. And like I said before, man, 60% of men in prison suffer childhood abuse. This is a statistic by the Prison Policy Institute. So, the trauma to prison pipeline is very studied and very analyzed by the government and by organizations. So it's time to reverse this harsh, corrupt, hateful system and bring back real equity in this system. And speaking about the victim, Big Mike, I would like to just point out the victims don't get nothing from us being incarcerated. It's some abstract notion that we're like put away in some horrible place. That's all they get for their justice. But how about if we end prison slavery? What about then? What about if the first person we had to pay back was the victim? How about that? You know what I'm saying? That's true justice. You know what I mean? Let's repair the victim. But yet the state steals all the wages from the American people that are incarcerated. And what does the victim get? Zero. They get an abstract notion. And that's not justice. That's not fairness. That's inequity. And these are the things that we're pointing out with Defund DOC. The taxpayer needs a refund.
Yeah, absolutely. Who is anyone to say what anyone else needs to be able to restore themselves? You know what I mean? Victim or not. Who is anyone to say, hey, you need this, and then you're fine? That's not okay. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the prosecutors acting like they're doing a justice to these victims. I mean, this is absurd. They would much rather, if you shoot somebody, the victim would much rather you go to be quarantined for a little while as you make wages to repair them and pay their hospital bills and then potentially pay them for the loss of wages that they're not going to make in the future. Can you imagine how much better that would be for the victims in these cases? You know what I'm saying?
Can you share the story of how you got passionate for cultural awareness?
To be honest with you, I've always loved being, Filipino and observing my culture. The thing about cultural awareness is this: if we bring awareness to any culture, there's all cultures they bring a positive outlook in things, right? Healing. They don't promote guns. They don't promote violence. There's something special about any type of culture and upbringing. It's the fact that when we step away from our culture is when we get into these behaviors that bring us to prison. So I think if we really bring the attention and the awareness to cultures, right, the outlook and the healings that it can bring, the spirituality it can bring, and things of that nature, then it's a given that people will not be incarcerated because they're practicing their culture the way it's supposed to be practiced. I've never heard of any culture that promotes guns, that promotes violence, that promotes any of this. API, whether it's API, black, white, any one of these cultures, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it could be in the neighborhoods, but that doesn't mean that it's that culture. You know what I'm saying? It could be in that village or that town, but it's not in that culture. So we have to bring awareness for sure. Because myself, I will flock to Filipinos if I see them just because I'm Filipino. So then whatever those Filipinos are doing, most likely I'll do the same thing. And if they were already practicing what the cultural aspect of the life is supposed to bring, then there's no way that I would end up in prison. So I can say that about any culture for sure, because there's a positive in any culture. And so I think if we draw awareness to culture and really see the positive that it can bring, I think we'll have a successful life and a successful future moving forward.
So in light of what you've shared with us today, what is the moral of your story?
Yes, I'm thinking when you came with these questions. That's a good question. I appreciate that question. I guess the moral of the story is this: anybody can change. Anybody can change. And I think instead of judging people for what they did, how about judging people for who they are now and who they want to become? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, people's character needs to be able to be brought to light. You know what I mean? Because, yes, it's easy to stereotype anyone. When I first met Daniel, I would have never guessed in my wildest dreams that this guy was as intelligent as he is, that he would have had a podcast about reform and injustices and things like that based off of what I see by the tattoos or whatever. But that's the unfortunate stereotype that people get all around, right? So I just think the whole moral of the story and the plot would just be, man, listen, we're not what we did. You know what I mean? We are who we are now, so.
Absolutely, man. So that's really good that you said that, too, because they actually did a legal law review called Good Guys and Bad Guys, Punishing Character, Equality, and the Irrelevance of Moral Character to Criminal Punishment. And that was written by Cardozo Law Review. And they're not taking into account our humanity. in these legal proceedings, they're not taking into account our upbringings, anything like that, any kind of mitigating factors into our existence as a fellow human being and citizen. All they care about is putting us away and keeping us enslaved. And, their phrase nowadays is incapacitation. Another law review that I'd like to point out to is ending stigma, the long-term effects of incarceration on health. And essentially, that's one of the key things that you just pointed out, is that the stigmas and the stereotypes, they got to stop, man, because 83.4% of the people getting relief are reoffending within a small amount of time. That's not because these are criminalistic people. This is because the trauma they're suffering when they're in prison, they're not getting no education, they're not getting no direction, and then they're being released with a small amount of money, not even enough to, make rent, or to just even stay at a motel for a week, let alone for a month. The immediate thing that they go back to is their old ways. And so, yeah, it's good that people like you and this podcast will step up to the plate and amplify the mission, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, we definitely got to continue to do that. We appreciate you being an advocate for the API and the Filipino community, and continue to share your voice with that community and with this community, and we definitely applaud you, Big Mike.
Hey, thank you, man. You know what? Honestly, I'm not going to lie. It's avenues like this and the avenues that a lot of these organizations bring to be able to allow this to happen. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for this outlet and this avenue, man. And I'm definitely gonna share this with some people. So look, here's another avenue that they can use to be able to reform. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. That just makes me think of this article by James M. Bennell, and it's called "Respecting the Dehumanizing Quality of the Modern Prison and an Unusual Model for Penal Reform." And that's what they want to keep stigmatizing us as beasts. We're not animals, man. We're your fellow sons and daughters of this country. We deserve equity. We deserve fair treatment. So thank you for sharing that.
Currently, we have the API cultural event coming up here in a few weeks. And, I'm hoping that after that, being able to work with other cultural groups like the BPC, for example, and being able to really share our views and their views, and also with the Hispanics as well, to be able to share their views and hopefully come up with a way where our respected cultures have a place in this facility to meet when we need to meet and host different or various classes like the youth summits or Asian American studies or sobriety classes, similar to like AA and things like that. But that's a goal of mine, and a lot of the API here is establishing a cultural awareness group that can definitely bring positivity to anyone, regardless of API or not, so we can get out of prison and stay out of prison. But it starts with something like that, you know what I mean? So it's already established at places like Walla Walla, Stafford Creek, Column Bay, and so why it won't start or get established here, or why DOC feels that it's not a right time, I'm not sure why, but I'm going to keep riding until the wheels fall off, you know what I mean? So hopefully sooner than later, so we can really change lives, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the mission that I'm on, along with the other API members here. And then, to be honest with you, I'm still, like I said, I'm still a student. I'm still learning every day. I have a chance to be a father to my children and learn from them. They feel like they learn from me, but I feel like I learn more from them because, they're growing up every day. They're going to school. And unfortunately, they grew up, most of their life without me because I've been incarcerated, and, they know what it's like to be homeless. And so they know what it's like to go from motel to motel. They know what that's like. And so I would love for them to be able to experience what it's like to have a father when I get out and really enjoy being the people that they want to become in the future. And so that's why I do what I do here, so I can not only get out but really make a difference in lives, you know what I mean? And so kind of give back to the community. That's kind of the mission I'm on, and that's where I'm at. I kind of wanted to do a quick little 16-bar verse for you guys real quick, if that's cool, on the podcast real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. This was meant for this podcast, so all right. As I sit here and broadcast via podcast about broken dreams, I need a broadcast. As I reform on laws past, I take a detour as we tour in odd past. How is it that women survive abuse, then get locked up? All that's viewed as unjust, sexist, victimization, and all that. What is it that we're striving for when the driving force is on all flats? All facts, we need more. Instead of chasing tails like Eeyore, water couldn't put out this fire, no tall glass. I say that to say this. This morning I woke up, read the Bible, and ate grits. Made gifts to give away like St. Nick. Make sense? They took native land, gave them a res, and told them to make tents. Released from prison and immediately pay rent. How do we fix it? We need suggestions together. Protect your brother. Like batteries, take a negative and a positive and connect them together.
That is phenomenal, Big Mike, man. We appreciate dropping a little diamond here and there on our podcast, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I can't thank you both enough, Daniel and Linda, for this opportunity. I do quickly want to just once again shout out to Eddie Papas and the rest of the Columbia Legal Services team, Sarlene, J.M. Wong, Brandon Wong, Eric Yu, Andres Pacificar, Fight, BL, Utopia. Thank you so much for all the hard work you guys consistently do every day by trying to change lives outside of here and inside of here. I don't know how you guys do it. Thank you to Defund DOC. If you guys want to look up my music videos, all my performances, YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you type in Winnin, WINNIN, Ways, WAYZ, Records, RECORDS. I go by the name Explicit. You'll see my stuff on there. But enough about me. I just want to shout out to defunddoc.net, Linda and Daniel. Thanks again, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Absolutely, man. And just to retrace our steps, one of the things that kind of hit me, man, in regards to what you were talking about is how you want to get out and become a real good father to your kids, man. And our audience can identify with that. You're a human being, and people have to understand that we have love for our children. There was an anti-slavery activist by the name of Frederick Douglass years ago that astutely stated, it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And that's kind of what that thought to my mind when you were speaking about your kids. I pray that you can get out there and be the father that you want to be. And I hope to see you out. And when you get out, touch base with Defund DOC so that we can break some more stereotypes,
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. That's absolutely 100%, man.
In closing, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, man. We really need more subscribers. We're trying to grow this. We're trying to unite. We're trying to organize. Also, as everybody knows, July 4th, we're kicking out the crowdfunder. We're going to start this reality TV show called Love in Prison Activism. We need people out there to start advocating for the movement, and one of the ways that we're going to do that is by getting on MTV, VH1, something with this reality show pilot. So just everybody stay tuned. Be ready for this crowdfunder. Like I said, everybody that donates is going to be a participant, whether you're going to be in the protest or you're going to become a cast member. But regardless, stay tuned. This is an exciting time in our history as a nation, and this is going to be the key civil rights struggle of our time. So thank you so much. Thank you, Big Mike, and of course, the beautiful and charming Linda. Thank you so much. Hey, friends, another episode is over. We want to keep improving this podcast, so we need your suggestions for future episodes. Also, as you know, I have been in prison almost 20 years, so if you have any questions about the criminal justice system, feel free to ask, and I will try to answer it. Please email your suggestions or questions on our website. Do you have a social media community that you can share our posts with? Please join our social media platforms and share our posts. That really helps. Also, I know you are busy, but taking one moment to do a review would help us tremendously. Thank you all.